you in. Mm. A little bit about, I know many of you and others. I just want to kind of tell you a little bit about where I'm coming from with this. When COVID happened back in 2020, I'm part of the UW Health Mindfulness Teaching Group, and we decided we wanted to offer something during COVID that might be supportive. So we started offering a Tuesday morning free drop-in session that started at 7:30 in the morning and would end at 8:15. And what we offered at that time, we decided that it was not going to be a class. It was going to be a guided practice group that anyone could come to. And the key part for the person that was going to facilitate it was, we said we would teach really authentically from how we were practicing at that time. And, it was under some really different kinds of conditions. And so I agreed to do it. And there were a couple other people that agreed. I know Diana said she'd be part of it too. And we each would take 3 weeks. And what I appreciate, and it's still going on, by the way, we didn't end it because COVID ended. We still continue and added another day. So there's a Thursday group that meets, I think it's at 11:45. But the 7:30 a.m. Tuesday group grew. It still continues to meet. And the commitment from the person guiding is that wherever you are, however it is for you right now in your life as you practice, you lead from that. And there's no curriculum. It's the curriculum of life and how the practices are integrated in you and how you offer it. And I have actually found it really helpful to me to get in that pattern, because I've been teaching for 30 years MBSR, and there's a pattern that's in MBSR, and it's authentic and it's important, but this is a bit different. It's this integration of how is practice for you now, what helps you, and you offer from that. So when John asked me if I would do it, I said yes, and it was that same commitment inside as, am I willing to share what practice is like for me and guide it in that way? So that's sort of where I'm coming from. So the piece that I kind of want to share is a pattern has been developing in me over the last several years, especially since I met John in 2012. So I tend to take and work with a phrase. It might be a poem. It may be, I'll share a piece that John offered that I have carried with me since 2019. Sometimes it's written on a piece of paper in my pocket, but I will use that phrase as a grounding for me. Of late, since February of this year, I have been working with, I think, an incredible piece. I don't know if any of you have heard of Reflections on Silver River from Ken MacLeod. Yeah, some of you have. This is like my daily anchor. So it says it's from the 37 practices of the Bodhisattva from Tokme Zongpo. And what I like about it is he has a verse and then he reflects on it. And I may take the same verse for 3 weeks. And in the morning, I read the verse. I read the reflection, and I may have captured one phrase from it and I carry it with me. So that's sort of a little doorway into a way that I practice. Now, the practice from these practices that I've been carrying for the last couple of years, and it's really, I think, taking root in me, is the letting be practice. And I'm finding, for many years, I was really focused on field of care, and it's still there for me. Like this morning when I got up and I sat, so I could invite in that field of care. And it tips me into a letting be practice. But the letting be practice it's just like I'm carrying it with me. So as I mentioned, when I was traveling, I just got back. This will be 2 weeks that I'm back now. But when I was traveling with my family in Europe, in Croatia, and making all the different transfers and doing things that I'm not used to doing, the letting be practice was like running through me. And I would almost hear that phrase, letting it be, letting it be. It allowed me to rest into and linger in the midst of situations, newness, various forms of anxiety that came up, family dynamics that can come up when you travel together, in moments of unexpected joy and love and openness. So that frame of letting it all be, just it's almost like it gets in the bone marrow, I think. So what I'd like to do this morning is I'm just going to lead a simple practice, and I'm going to use 3 key. I tend to think in terms of threes, and I like single words as grounding for practice. So 3 words that have gone with me for several years now, really coming out of, I think, the influence of Pema Chodron as well as John's work. When she talks about you recognizing what's happening. So there's authenticity. You don't make anything up. It's like what's really there. Lingering. Can I linger with what I recognize is there? And warmth. Bringing this attitude of warmth. So this recognition, it's authentic, it's actually there, it's happening. Lingering. And can you hear in the lingering that letting be influence? This lingering, letting it be. And this warmth. There's different words for that too. Kindness, tenderness, softening. So that's just a little doorway into the continuous ongoing evolution of practice within this particular life. And we all have that. We all have the way things are evolving in us. Where do you hang your hat? You know, what is your core? What do you find yourself coming home to? So with that, why don't we take a little bit of time to practice together, and then we'll have time to be in a breakout group and share a little bit about what we discover in this journey that we share together. So I'm going to read you the piece that I have from the 2019 retreat that was out east. Maybe you were on that retreat. And it was a quote from John McCransky that is still on the notebook that I have that I carry, but I have it on pieces of paper and pockets. Sometimes it's tucked in the between the seats in my car. It's used as a bookmark in different books. But here's the quote that I'm living my way into. I'm really letting it have its way with me. It's kind of like, they say poetry isn't meant to be understood, it's meant to be lived. So this quote is, and here's John's quote. This is how I wrote it. Suffering is never the only reality here. Suffering is never the only reality here, but is embraced in a larger reality of openness, warmth, and care, in which it can transform and deeply heal. So I'll offer that one more time and then we'll just settle in. So suffering is never the only reality here, but is embraced in a larger reality of openness, warmth, and care, in which it can transform and deeply heal. So, however it is that it is in you right now, feeling our way into being in this particular form, this body that we are. And maybe as best we can, is coming home into feeling into this body right now. Just kind of giving ourselves permission to return home into bodiliness. And feeling into this bodiliness. Resting into this being bodiliness. And perhaps from that resting into, taking in a deep breath, feeling that bodily experience. And this releasing of breathing. Just sensing into that, how that is happening this morning. Body being breathed. And sensing into feeling the allowing of it, not trying to manipulate it or make it into anything. Just deeply resting into body breathing. It can sometimes feel like sensing into giving it all the space it needs. Giving the breath all the space it needs. So it can allow its own rhythm in its own way, in its own time. Resting in the qualities of this being breathed. Giving it all the space it needs, these sensations, the unnamables. Just resting into the isness of this body, breathing, breathing body. And sometimes that awareness expands in the sense we're aware of at the same time the sounds of the wind or the sounds of the birds. It's all part of the experience. And is it possible just to let it all be? Just letting it rest, letting it be. And if you notice some part arises of somehow wanting to do something or make it different, once again, allowing the space for that. Is just like the sounds, I can hear the sounds of the siren coming through in my environment. There's no need to get in a fight with anything. Just give it a resting place. Sometimes that bodily awareness, that breath awareness expands and it takes in the environmental sounds as part of this time. And just allowing, giving it all the room. There's room for sound. What is it like to rest in the midst of sound? The felt sense of wind on the body. Just noticing what is happening now. Can I rest in the lingering, rest in the allowing, rest in the letting be, in the natural warmth of letting it all be? So in this practice, can I notice maybe what's drawing me, maybe different happenings in the mind are getting louder? If there's repetitious thoughts happening, I often pause and ask myself, so what's the feeling sense under that thinking pattern? What's the feeling sense? And can I rest in the feeling sense under the pattern that might be happening in the thinking mind? What's that feeling sense in letting it all be? Letting it be. What's that sense of feeling, letting it be? What does letting it be feel like in the mind? Giving permission for what's happening in this mind, thinking mind or non-thinking mind, just letting it be. What does letting be feel like? And I sense into that. It Feel that, allow it. And sometimes when resting in that, it showcases another pattern that might show up of well, you should. Well, this is how you should feel. This is what you should be thinking about. The shoulding part. And again, drawing back into recognizing it, giving it all the space it needs. And sometimes the tenderness is a little sense of humor. This, yeah, this too. This too. Letting it be. And just resting back. Resting into resting. Letting be. Now, an essential part of how my practice over the years is evolving is if it doesn't happen within the practice, then when I know that I am drawing to a close the time I've set aside to formally practice, I like to intentionally call to mind what's difficult for me to face. So, for example, the concerns that I carry in my heart over what's going on in the world, right? And at times I can get pretty overwhelmed, but it's shifting this overwhelm piece in that. Within practice, I like to do a little bit of Tonglen practice. And so I'll offer a way that I've framed it for now. So I call to mind, for example, right now for what's happening to me, I just have this image of this extreme suffering that's going on in the world, in Gaza, in other places, but I have these images that come to mind associated with the Palestinian situation. And so, as best I can, I breathe in that sense of suffering, and I breathe out this deep wish for relief from that, this deep wish for a rest, a deep wish for healing. I mean, it's simple. I just breathe in as best I can, the images of that. And on the exhale, I breathe out this sincere wish for peace, to end this, for restoration, for healing. And the image can change. It can go to a particular family situation that I know has a lot of suffering. And that can trigger my patterns of somehow wanting to opinionate about it. But I let that come in mind and heart. And then I, as best I can, breathe in that, as if accepting the reality of that, as distorted as it might be in me, just accepting it. And on the out breath, this deep wish that the participants find their way, that they too can come upon this unconditional love that John's referring to in that quote, that they can find healing, that breathing it in as best I can and exhaling a deep wish for that. So in a sense, I kind of make my rounds. I give permission for the concerns to come up. And I don't turn away from them in the practice, just it's a way of trying as best I can to meet them. And then often, as it's coming to a close, there's another dimension that I bring alive in me with practice, with formal practice. And that's the dimension that I, in a sense, I ask for the grace that as I live my life, the grace to not turn away from the difficult, and the grace in the presence of the difficult to pause and linger long enough to allow the right action to appear. So I kind of set that intention to say, may I have the grace and the clarity as I go through my life, to allow the right action to appear. And may I have the courage to do it. So, however you draw your formal practice to a close in your life, maybe giving yourself permission to do that right now. And we'll transition into an opportunity to continue to practice in the presence of a couple of other people. So practice continues. So the invitation would be that you pause together and you notice what's coming up that you might want to share about either this practice or your practice in general. Or maybe you have a particular phrase that is really dominant in you right now, that you're carrying it with you in your practice and into your daily life. Something that's really happening. Okay? So Katherine was going to set up and maybe we could have like